Most people think that manifestation works because of the techniques that they're using, but the truth is, your techniques are not what create your reality. Your assumptions are. And this is why everybody seems to be doing everything right, yet they see nothing changing. Because if your assumptions contradict the techniques that you're using, your assumptions will always win. So in today's video, I wanted to break this topic down in a way that clicks for you guys, so that manifestation can feel more simple, more natural, and more inevitable, because let's be real, that's what we all want. And I'm also going to be talking to you guys about why some manifestations seem to happen instantly, yet others seem to take months or even years to come into fruition. And it has nothing to do with how hard you try. So let's talk about it, because once you understand this, you will never look at manifestation the same again, trust me. We need to start off with probably one of the biggest misconceptions in the law of assumption community. Techniques do not manifest. They're tools, they're optional, and they're helpful at best. I use so many of them, but they do not create. And the reason this is so important is because a lot of people believe that the results that they get depends on the techniques that they're using, how perfect they execute them, how often they do it, how long they do it for. And then they end up treating manifestation like a chore or like homework, instead of understanding what it actually is. It's a shift in being, it's a shift in identity, it's a shift in assumption. Because if you think about it like this, if you keep telling yourself, oh, I'm loved, I'm chosen, I'm wanted 1,000 times a day, but deep down you still assume that you're somebody who isn't chosen, who isn't wanted, who isn't loved, your assumptions will win every single time. You're not manifesting from the techniques. You're manifesting from the state that you're in whilst doing them. Think about it like this. Your techniques express your state. They don't override them. And that is where so many people get stuck. So let's get clear on what assumptions actually are. Your assumptions aren't your thoughts, they aren't your emotions, they're not your mood that you are just in during the day. Your assumptions are your deep automatic expectations of your life. They're things that you believe without thinking. They're the identity that you return to. That's the baseline that you live from, pretty much. And they can sound like things like love always finds its way to me, people understand me easily, or attract opportunities all the time, everywhere I go, life just supports me. And on the other end, it sound like I always have to work twice as hard to get things that I want, things never work out for me, people always leave, I struggle to get what I want, stuff like that. And here's the key part. These things don't have to be actively thought about to be around. They're like running in the background, like a default setting. It's like they're running off of autopilot. You don't have to be consciously and manually thinking about them for them to be there. Most people don't manifest what they want because what they're actually manifesting is what they already assume. So pretty much techniques are what sit on the surface, yet assumptions is what lives underneath that. So why do techniques fail? Because your subconscious isn't responding to what you say. It's responding to what you believe is true. And if what you're saying contradicts something that you assume, your mind reads that technique as evidence of lack of something, not an abundance of something. Right, so let me give you a few examples of how this could show up in your life. If you're using affirmations to do with love, let's just say, I am loved. If you're using that affirmation, but if your state is still something like, I'm afraid that my SP will leave me, your mind will interpret the affirmation that you're trying to give it as something that your mind just doesn't believe. Another example, if you visualize wealth, yet your current state is still, money is unpredictable for me, for example, that's when your visualization becomes a fantasy and not just part of your identity. The same thing goes for this example. If you're trying to script as your desired self from your desired reality, but your assumption is still, things never go my way, things never work out for me, nothing changes, that's when your scripting becomes emotional escapism and not embodiment in action. And it's not because you're doing anything wrong, it's just the fact that you're trying to use these techniques to overpower an already dominant assumption in your mind. And your assumption is always the one that's driving the car. So how do you even identify what your current assumptions are? You look at two things. First thing you look at is your automatic reactions and responses to certain things. Let's say if you receive a compliment from someone, is your first thought, do they actually mean it? If someone takes a little too long to text back, is your first thought, oh my god, they've lost interest, what if they don't like me? If money is somehow delayed in your 3D, is your first thought, what's happened to the money? Oh, it must have been something that I've done. I must have, came into some debt without realizing. These automatic reactions expose dominant assumptions because your mind just instantly goes to them without you even having to think so hard. It It just happens like that. The second thing I want you to look for are reoccurring patterns. Patterns are like manifestations of long held assumptions. So if you see something in your life that's repeating itself, whether that be a certain thought process or literally a physical action that you carry out physically, it is rooted in a belief about yourself or life that you've just normalized. And this isn't about blaming yourself for doing these things. This is just you trying to understand these mechanisms so that you can change them. Because once you see your assumptions, you can shift them, and that's when you'll see things change. This part is not only really important, but it's a part of the process that a lot of people tend to overcomplicate. Shifting an assumption doesn't mean that you're forcing new thoughts and just trying really, really hard. All it means is that you're choosing a new identity, and that's the identity that you choose to be your baseline, and that's what you'll return to. It just means choosing a new identity and letting that new identity become your baseline from now on. So, here's how to do it. First thing, identify an old assumption. Don't dwell on it, just acknowledge it. Like, yeah, this has been my default. Then, when you choose a new assumption to work with, choose it from a place of authority, not from a sense of, oh, I hope this is me in the future, or I wish that this was me in the future. Authority, like, yeah, this is me. So let's just say, I am the version of me who blank is normal or is normal for them. Little example, you could say, I am the version of me who being confident is normal for them. Just something like that. Then I want you to saturate your inner world with this new identity. Now this is where you can use techniques, but not to manifest the thing itself, but to condition the new state. This is where affirmations become just natural thoughts in this state. This is where if you use scripting, that becomes embodiment, and then if you visualize, it's just like thinking of a memory. Number 4, drop the checking. Stop checking for proof. This is the part that most people resist, because the second you check for proof in the 3D, that's when you step back into your old assumptions. You stop being, and then you start thinking about your manifestations from a sense of hoping they happen, wishing they happen, wanting them to happen. Your assumption shifts when your identity shifts, and then your reality shifts when these said assumptions become natural for you to think about. They're not forced, they're not repeated 1,000 times, just natural, normal. Okay, this is post-gym kiera, but it's still the same day that I filmed the rest of the footage. Anyway, you probably noticed, if you've watched some of my more recent videos, that I've been wearing some of these gemstone jewelry pieces in them, and I actually got them gifted from the Otter Spirit. So firstly, thank you to Otter Spirit for sending me them, because I'm absolutely in love. This one is the adventuring one, and this is probably one of my favorites. The Otter Spirit make gemstone jewelry intentionally designed to help you to align yourself to the state in which you want to be in, the version of yourself you want to embody, all that type of stuff. Obviously, as we say in this video, it's not the gemstones or even the techniques that do the manifestation for you, but I like to have a little gentle physical reminder in the 3D that just reminds me of the version of myself who I am embodying. So that's why I like wearing these gemstone bracelets. And since it's Black Friday and also Cyber Monday coming up, the Otter Spirit has given me not 1 code, but 3 codes to give out to you guys. So if you use kiera35 at checkout, this gets you 35% off your order if it's over $99. The second code I have is kiera30, which gets you 30% off orders over $99. And then finally we have kiera20, which gives you 20% off any order. So if you're looking to grab a deal on Black Friday or Cyber Monday for either yourself or a loved one, because you know the holiday season's coming up, definitely check out the Otter Spirit. It will be in the first line of my description box. Go and check out their jewelry pieces. They do all sorts. They have such a wide selection. You'll definitely find something for you. So once again, thank you so much to the Otter Spirit for sending me this stuff. I absolutely love it. Now we're going to talk about why some manifestations tend to come into the 3D instantly, it seems, but others tend to take a little bit longer. Sometimes we shift assumptions without even realizing it. So let's say you've fallen in love with someone. Your assumptions will naturally become, of course I'm loved because I have this person that loves me for who I am, that, you know, is literally obsessed with me. Similar thing goes for when you feel confident, your assumptions change and they become something like, of course things work out for me because I walk into a room and I just radiate confidence. When you're in some sort of flow state, your assumptions become life is easy and everything seems supported. Everything's going my way right now. Those manifestations feel effortless. They come into the 3D a lot faster because there's nothing internal that's contradicting them. But when you want something that might be touching an old wound or something that challenges an old identity, you're not just shifting your desire, you're shifting the assumption that lives underneath it. So it takes longer, not because the universe is slow, but because you're unlearning who you are to become someone new. Right, so let me give you some real life examples because this is where everything clicks. Somebody can do every love technique in the world. I'm victim to, 2020 where you'd write their name like 3 times, place some rose quartz on it and put it under your pillow overnight. But the moment they shift their assumptions from saying, I'm afraid of losing this specific person, to I'm the kind of person who is always loved and valued, the entire dynamic changes, often instantly. You'll notice that people will be texting you back. People show up differently, conversations will soften, tension will dissolve. Not because the technique worked, but because your identity shifted. Techniques just helped you stay anchored in that new identity. Next example, when somebody assumes something like money's always random for me, I never know when I'm going to come into like a lump sum of money, I struggle to budget, just something along those lines. That's when money will always be inconsistent in their life because that's what they assume. But when somebody's assumption changes to money flows to me because I always expect it to, that's when you'll see things change in the 3D world. You'll start seeing you getting random back payments that you never realized were going to come through. You might get higher tips from people, you might receive new clients if you receive clients on your kind of business thing. And all of that changed because the baseline expectation that money always flows to you because that's what you expect it to do. You can affirm all day long that you're a confident person, right? But when your assumption changes to something like I'm the kind of person who always belongs wherever I am, they don't need the confidence techniques anymore because confidence just becomes their natural state. And this is why I say the assumptions are what create, the techniques are the support. Living from a new assumption that you've made for yourself isn't acting fake. It's not like you're forcing positivity. It literally means that you wake up every day and you say to yourself, I am the version of me where this stuff is already true. And you speak from that version, you react from that version, and you breathe from that version. You literally are them from this day going forward. And the 3D doesn't even have to reflect it yet because your inner world is what always reflects it first because that's what the 3D reflects itself off of. The 4D is what shifts instantly. The 3D will just reflect that in due time. And that is what creates the shift. Now, this is something that almost nobody talks about. When an assumption finally lands, your desires won't feel urgent anymore. Not because you don't care, it just feels inevitable. Neville Goddard called this naturalness because when the desire becomes something familiar, it becomes something natural and expected. When it finally happens, when it finally comes into the 3D, it kind of feels a bit anticlimactic. It won't feel dramatic. It won't feel like this magical, oh my god, I've just witnessed a miracle type thing. It will just feel normal because in your inner world, it already was. So the truth of all of this is that it was never about the techniques. It was never about how hard you tried. It was never about how often you affirmed or visualized or scripted. It was always about your assumption. Your assumptions are the soil. Reality is the tree, and techniques that you use are like gardening tools. When you shift the soil, the entire landscape changes. You don't have to force anything, you don't have to chase anything or prove anything. You just come back to the simple truth. Your reality is merely just a mirror of the assumptions that you believe to be true about yourself and your life. And you get to choose that today, tomorrow, and every single moment after that. So if this helped something click for you in your manifestation journey, then why not stick around and subscribe down below and make sure to turn on post notifications because I post videos talking about this kind of stuff every single week. So you don't want to miss out. And until then, I want you to remember this one thing. Your assumptions are the creator. You are essentially the creator. You are the operant power. Thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.